And I'm live. Hello, everyone in Code Therapy Land. Well, that's mostly me, actually. I think I'm the sole inhabitant of Code Therapy Land. Except for the people who are really early. Like, when I launch all of this, occasionally there's just like one person who sort of blundered in right at the beginning. So, hello, that person. And hello, if you're watching me in the future. Tell me what it's like, because right now, the future is not looking that fantastic. As you might have seen in the little message, I've been glued to watching the Turkey live streams. Seems to be a slightly, dare I say, better use of live streaming, and certainly a lot less calming. Code therapy is supposed to be your little refuge away from the troubles and the strife of the world, whether you're a programmer or not. I am not a programmer, but I do enjoy programming, and I believe that other people enjoy watching me, because that way you can watch me making the mistakes rather than feeling responsible when you make the mistakes. And goodness knows I make a fair deal of errors, but they're learning errors. So what we do here is hack on a language called Elm. And Elm is a super new language, as you'll probably spot as we continue talking about it. It's actually still in a state of flux. We're at version 0.17. I actually went to the Elm, hey dashboard, went to the Elm Meetup in San Francisco yesterday, which was great. Let me hit up their little page. If you are in the San Francisco area, I totally recommend it. It was great fun. Everyone was really friendly, and there were a lot of interesting conversations going on. Probably the one for people who aren't in San Francisco, and even San Franciscos will recognize that that is the case. Oh wow, this is so new I can't even find it. So let me do a live Google search for this. So many of you know that there's a Railsbridge, which is sort of an attempt to get a wider group of people into using Rails. Nope, these are just all places that are named after elms. Well, I'll put the link on later. We're trying to get together something similar for Elm, so that people will be able to come and learn a little bit about it, and find out more about it in a friendly environment. If you are in San Francisco, the sort of proto Elmbridge happens at this meetup. But Evan was there, Evan, the inventor of Elm, and a couple of other people, including the people working on the thing I want to mess around with today. To fill you in what we're doing, I actually kind of encourage at this point people to look at the old episodes and find a little bit more about them there. Hold on a second. And but what we're doing is we're building a game. And the game is based on a thing called Dual N Back. Dual N Back is it's a mind game in the true spirit of therapy and psychologists. And the idea behind this particular mind game is it's sort of a memory game. It's to test and challenge your ability to remember sequences back in time. And what happens is you get shown this slightly hypnotoad grid that has a blob appearing on it. And then you have to match when this blob turns up 2 steps after a blob in a similar position. And oops, just kick up something here so I can see what you're seeing. There we go. I put the font size up a little bit this time round because I know that was bugging people. So hopefully you can get to see what I'm typing. Anyway, that's dual end back. You'll begin to see, actually you can see right now that we're certainly on our way to coming up with it. You can see we start making this appear. But we're actually reaching the level of complexity with this program where I'm feeling a little nervous that there aren't any tests. Now, Elm is a functional programming language, which means that not only is it sort of easier in theory to test because each of the functions are what's known as immutable or pure, so that if you put the same thing in, you're supposed to get exactly the same thing out. So there's a nice testing opportunity there, and they don't have side effects. So I get the sense in the functional programming world that people tend to be a bit more skimpy on tests. But I came up with this kind of, it's not super complicated, but it makes me nervous. This function here, it adds a new card to the deck, and what we decided to do is set things up so that the deck is like the pile of cards that are appearing, and at the top of the deck is the grid that's currently on the screen, and then 2 cards down is the card you're trying to match. So I set up this this type, an Elm, in common with a lot of functional languages, is a really strong and complicated, not complicated, but a powerful type system. So in this type system, you can either have a normal card, which tells you where on that grid it's going to go, or just a sort of message, a tag that says, actually, this card you're looking at just matches the one 2 cards back, or whatever we have. And that we did that because there was a chance of sort of saving a bit of logic, right? By saying that, we don't have to really do things like constantly check to see whether it's the same as the last one. This threw a lot of the logic here in this add new card to deck, because what this new card addition program has to do is double check to make sure that if somebody's putting a card on the deck and it does match the card two cards back, then we use the position matches back card. So you can see here it's just a little check to say, does this match? If it does, then we should make it position matches back. I have a feeling that we're going to rewrite this code a fair bit, but for now, what I just wanted to do is write a test, and I've never written an Elm test before, so that's totally thrilling and exciting, at least for me. Of course, as I said before, Elm is a super new language, and when I was at the Elm Meetup, I discovered that the Elm-Test program, wow, I'm not really being very lucky at my Google searches today. Here we go. So this is the usual place that people go for writing tests in Elm. It's done by somebody called Dead Foxy Grandpa. I really like that name. It's a pretty cool name. And as you can see, it's not been worked on for a while. And in fact, what's going on is a bunch of other people, I think with the tacit go-ahead of Dead Foxy Grandpa, are trying to improve it. The name of it is Project Fuzzball. So another really difficult thing to search for. Here we go. So, Project Fuzzball. Interesting. So, Project Fuzzball is here on GitHub, and the deal that this is that it's compatible with the old Elm-Test, but they've put in some other things. So in the wonderful world of functional programming, unit tests aren't quite as important because a lot of the things that you would check in a dynamic programming language like Smalltalk, where unit testing kind of got its real power, test-driven development at least, and Python and Ruby and the like. A lot of what you're doing there is actually stuff that's checked quite effectively by the compiler in a functional programming language. So what a lot of people do in functional programming language, in particular Haskell, is this thing called quick check. Talked about this a little bit in the last episode, but what it actually does is it does testing much more like fuzzing does. If you know what fuzzing is, it's where you're given a API or a set of arguments to a function, and say one of them is an int or a list of ints. You create as many different varieties of lists of ints as you can possibly think of. Of course, you get the computer to do that, and then you throw all of them at, and you're sort of looking for edge cases. And because a type system is actually often very specific about what is in the argument that you're sending, it's pretty easy for functional languages to try this kind of thing out. And so I've definitely seen much more of this use of testing than the usual sort of manual construction of checks and assertions that you see in more imperative or dynamically typed languages. And the idea is I think that to bring both of these things together into one unit. I'm talking a lot because I have to say that I looked at this last night before I started. I am not sure where we're going to begin, and I was going to mess around and do stuff off screen, and then I went, no, that's not in the spirit of code therapy. Code therapy, I want you to see in all of its gritty, horrific glory as I try and work out what the hell is going on. So, what do we have? We have a fork of Elm-Test. So you'd think, well, maybe that's them hacking on it. There's an experimental new API here, and the last message on this, I think, was... Well, actually, it was... I think I was looking on issues. And the last issue on this was... migrate issues and deprecate this repo. Well, that was Project Fuzzballnode. Project Fuzzball test. So that was 6 days ago. Let's moved it to here. So maybe this is the code we're supposed to be looking at. Interesting. We could ask on Slack, you know. We do that. There's a really good Slack channel on Elm in particular. Not quite sure where it is. Let me try and find this Slack window for you. Am I missing IRC chats? No. Okay. So this window, so let's try here. Poop. Well, that was helpful. Slack isn't going to kick in. I wonder if I can join the IRC. No, I'm already on. It just dies. I don't know what's up with it. Don't see anything, do you? Oh. Is this show just going to be me debugging Slack? Maybe. Well, it does a bunch of stuff and then gives in. Oh no, I have to decide this all on my own. Alright. I can do it. I can do it. I'm going to try. See how we do with... Well, first of all, let's see whether this is like updated. Interesting. So this is the main one. I wonder if I should just use this. I'm playing with danger if I... Yeah, the new one is going to be plugin compatible with this, so perhaps we should just mess with things that we don't understand. Not understanding. What do we say? Package install Elm community Elm-Test. Is that going to do it? Yes, I think you may. Looks okay to me, he says. All right. Cool. Well, what does it say we have to do? Interesting. Okay, so we can also run this in the command line. I'm a big fan of the command line by making a thing called tests. Then gosh. Now we write nodes. I don't know what that error was. I've seen that error before. Don't trust it. Yeah, I'm really not going to be able to edit that. Understand what it's trying to do. Let's try Elm make again. Well, it sort of implies that I'm looking for something that doesn't exist. And I noticed this Elmo, this sort of tickle me Elmo thing going on here, Which makes me feel a bit like maybe I put in a typo here, but no, no. It all looks pretty good. It's a bit rude, but just gonna see if that helps. Oh, we didn't get the same error, which is a good thing. Okay, good. That's good. Interesting. Well, I mean, assuming that this test was supposed to file, I think it probably is. Hey, hello, Chicken Skill. I'm trying to get tests running in Elm. I have to admit that, like, feel a little like I'm wandering in a bunch of twisty mazes. Look, this test should fail though, so we have got something going on here. So does this mean that we need to write our tests here? I guess so. Well, I can live with that. Does sort of mean that we have to import that module. Well, to be honest, the other thing that I was going to do is, and this I did mess around with when you weren't looking, is a thing called Elm-Format. Elm-Format tidies up our code and tries to make it into a canonical way. And when I was playing around with it, I didn't notice that it did the thing that turns this into a nice module that you can import elsewhere. So what I'm just going to do is run Elm-Format over main Elm. I believe that the thing is like, that's how you store it somewhere else. So yeah, so you see it says up here module main. So that means we should be able to import this module into that test runner and call these functions without too much trouble. So I did that formatting just so I wasn't going to overwrite my existing file. You can, so I'm running a diff here, and this is comparing the two, and you can see here that it's added some lines here to make it into a proper module. What else has it done? Sort of, it's doing some nice tidying up and formatting of the of my types. I like it. It's pretty. Doesn't seem to have mangled my comments. Indentation is looking a lot prettier. Yeah, I like what it's done here. So let's copy it across and then commit it. Okay, so fingers crossed that that's going to work. Might as well just check. Oh, it's still looking good. Yep, hasn't sabotaged my code. Let's commit this. Wow, pretty wide set of edits, but that's what happens when you do format things. I'm not going to put this other stuff in quite yet. Okay, committing that. Color. I'll push it up. Okay. Okay, pushing that. We should get rid of formatted. Let's see if we can get these tests running. So I guess we just say import main exposing. Let's see what we want to expose. Well, to be honest, all I really want to expose is probably at this point card and add new card to deck. Okay, I'll just do that. Maybe I also installed this thing, Elm Oracle, which is a helper for Vim. I'm using Elm Vim as my plugin for Elm for Vim, and it has some other cool things, features in it. One of them is it gonna work? Yeah, I don't want you generating an index HTML there, mate. See where it goes. I guess that's probably not quite as useful. We need here is so this is npm. npm lets you run scripts. So what we kind of want here is something that will run that node test thing. I wonder if it'll let me run more than one. I'm sorry that this is rather less programming and more just kind of maintenance around these things, but it was actually called Elm Community. It's one of the tragedies of a fast-moving piece of software that often the top Google links are not what you actually want to be looking at. They're all talking about what was cool last year. Tests, running tests. Let's do this. How is it this what I did? No, it was this. Okay. Never really done this, but we'll see how it goes. Okay. I think that actually worked. I'm not sure, but it seemed to. Let's try changing things around a bit. Let's get rid of this test that fails. It's annoying me. No! Mission passed. Oh, right. It's because we haven't forced it to run again. Nice! Okay. That's good. Apparently we can do it more prettily in HTML, but I don't want to do it prettily. I just want it to happen. Okay. Alright. It worked! I know! Chicken skill! We did it! The test passed. You know, I kind of do want to find out what the fancy HTML version of it is. Yep, ship it. It's done. We haven't written our tests yet. That's why everything passes. Oh, look. Oh, that looks kind of nice. Output as HTML. No. Though, if we outputted it as HTML, we would just be able to hit reload, and then we would see it all. No. Do that later. Alright, let's actually write some tests that make some sense. So, oh, this looks really different from what I was looking at. Interesting. I wonder if this is different. Does seem pretty basic. I am tempted by Project Fuzzball again. See, look at that. That's a bit sexy. No, I'm going to write this one test in the old style. And then, really what we have to do is, rather than be distracted about this, is to actually work out what the test should be. How dull. The test should add a new card. Let's split this even more. All right, I'm just going to do a really simple test here. I'm going to say that we have test model of n equals 2, score equals 0, choice equals 0. Like a default here that we can just mess with. Interesting. Nah, because we might change that. Deck equals normal card position equals 1, normal card position is 2, normal card position equals 3. All right. Looking good. Things closing break. Okay. Fair enough. Stitch me up like a kipper. That's exactly what I should have done. Cannot find variable normal card. Do I have to have normal card there? Constructor. Do constructors default to not being exported? Am I crazy? Let's look. Elm. Exposing. Constructor. Modules. Gotcha. So you do actually have to specify that you want the constructor as well. Looks like that's the way to do it. Okay. All tests passed. Wait. Apart from the huge error in it. Okay. That looked like a typo. Oh, okay. Just screwing up. It should be false. Like that. Good. All right. So let's sounds really fancy. All I really mean here is that if we add another function here. Position of top card. deck. Now, this Oracle thing, I don't see it. Don't think that was going to work. I'm just screwing with the Vim settings. So we add a new card to the deck, and we want that new card to be whatever it's called, position match back. We're going to use our test model. So all of that has returned a model. And then do we this is ugly. Test's always ugly. I thought this was going to be a happier episode. I thought it was going to be like smooth, exciting new things. Crazy funky stuff. The Elm Meetup made me very excited. There were lots of like people there, and I also got to meet an old friend of mine, Jonathan, who is like one of the smartest people I know, and it was like this super good sign that Jonathan is also interested in Elm. I kind of depend on my instinct for what the new thing is for seeing a clutch of smart people whose opinions I trust hanging around also. I first met Jonathan at one of the last, I think, of the Cypherpunk meetings in the early 2000s. If you guys don't know about the Cypherpunks, they were the group that really things like the forerunners of Bitcoin started at, and they really centered on these regular meetings. Hey, Modian. Have you been here for 1,000,000 hours? No, you haven't. Okay, good. I'm messing around with a functional language called Elm. This is Elm. We're trying to build a thing called dual end back, which is a pretty simple. I need to come up with a sexier demo of this, but it's a sort of mind testing game. It has a lot of science behind it. If you go to the dual end back FAQ, you'll be able to see an extraordinary amount of papers written about how this might be able to improve your fluid intelligence and your working memory. I need to move that across my head so that I can use that as the thumbnail for this video. Anyway, that's what we're working on, but I got totally distracted talking about the Cypherpunks. So the Cypherpunks were started off with a group of people, including my my board member boss, John Gilmore, and a bunch of other people here in the Bay Area. And one of them wrote, who wrote the Cyberpunks Manifesto? Eric Hughes, sadly passed away. And Eric wrote a great manifesto. Here, look, I'll stick it in the chat so you can find it. It is fun. It is actually kind of, I'm still getting into it. And when me and Jonathan had got there, like the peak of their excitement, the sort of 90s excitement that they had kind of waned. They were all a little bit not depressed or anything, just in a different kind of mood. And but me, Jonathan, and Bram Cohen were there, and like we were distinctly younger than the other people. And Bram was at that moment, I think, working on BitTorrent. And also the other person there was Zuko O'Wheeler-Cronks. And Zuko was, I think Zuko and Bram were working on a super exciting thing called Mojo Nation, which had a little bit of Bitcoin, a little bit of BitTorrent, and a little bit of Freenet, sort of IPFS. but it was way, way, way before its time, and everybody kind of like split off to work on the little piece that they could get a grip on. Bram did the file sharing part of it because that was an element of it. Zuko went and did the sort of distributed filing system part of it in a project called Tahoe Laughs, and Jonathan was kept an eye on everything. Jonathan's a really good person for like spotting new trends and like putting connections together. He actually wants to hack on Elm to try and speed up the sort of shadow DOM, the virtual DOM diffing thing that makes Elm able to store its an immutable version of the web page, and then if there are tiny changes made to the immutable version, of course no changes are made to the immutable version, but when a new one comes in and it's slightly different, it does a diff on the real DOM, so it sort of does it more quickly. It doesn't change everything in the DOM. Anyway, Jonathan, I think, is thinking about how can we do that with array buffers, which is this feature that's sort of come out of asm.js. Like they're essentially contiguous blocks of integer arrays in JavaScript, which are tied more clearly to the hardware, and so are much quicker. Anyway, big restriction. But if you want to read about the Cypherpunks, I totally advise you to look at, I wonder if this will get it, Crypto Rebels. There you go. You can get a feel for what it was like in the 90s when I didn't have a beard and I was just scared of all these people. Now I am not scared of them anymore. Maybe I should be. They're all kind of older and more lovable now. They were pretty hardcore when I first came here. Okay. Like the leather jacket, super libertarian, and like, fuck you. I was like, okay. I went to a Cypherpunks party, and they were, I was the only Brit there, and somebody showed me their gun. Like, as a British person, I'm like, oh, that's nice. And they said, yeah, it's a gun. I went, oh, can I have a look at it? And like, I picked it up, and everyone sort of like dives down because like when you have the British person with the gun, like no idea. I have no gun discipline or hygiene or skills in any way. I was just going, oh yeah, this looks pretty, yeah, and like, people were diving around going, no, stop the Brit. Test. Okay. All right. So we get the model, we add a new card to it, and then we want to test it in some way. Okay, we want to test. We have two functions here. We want to test top. Cause. Basically say position of top card. It's very strange to think of tests in a functional way because you always think about them, you know, imperatively calling things. That is not what we're doing here. Model.tick int is, what is int in this? Is it mback? Yeah, okay. God, that position of top card should really just be wired to the... Why don't we have that wired to the model? Set equal Have I forgotten some parentheses? Probably. Oh yeah, definitely. So that's got a model, and then we kind of want to do it. You know, I look at all of these brackets, these parentheses, and I just think to myself, I should be using those cool and funky Haskell pipes and dollars and all of those operators that I never remember, but this one seems like the right one to do. So this is taking a model, and then we're going to pipe it into test top equals. Actually, let's swap that around. And we can do a bit of saucy currying, right? Currying is where you put in the first argument of a function, and then in languages like Haskell and Elm, I'm explaining this to make sure that I understand what I'm talking about. So you have a function, and the function is called f, takes a and b, and then it adds a and b. Cool. We have f, and f2 and 3 is 5. So what happens if you just give one argument? Now, in most languages, that would come up with error. I don't know. Well, you mean the right numbers. Not in Haskell Elm. What happens in Haskell Elm is it curries the f function, which is to say this becomes a function itself that takes another argument. And that other argument, whatever is going to come next. So that means that if we say, let's make a new function called p, which equals f2, right? So now p is something that takes a number and returns a number. What is p? Well, it's a new function that adds 2 to things, because the first argument is kind of put into it. When I was talking to Jonathan, the smartest person in the world, Jonathan was saying how currying is sort of like, it's really lexical binding, which you might know in JavaScript. It's lexical binding of like one of the arguments. I was going, yeah, but lexical binding is sort of nice syntactic sugar. And then Jonathan was like, no, actually it's really bad. It's really bad sugar, because like you don't know what you're binding, whereas at least with currying you know where you are. Hey, Chicken Skill. I just explained currying really well. You missed it. Now you'll never know what currying is. Okay, so test top equals, and what it should equal is 2. Meow. Dashboard. My complainy Siamese cat. Oh, shut up. First argument to function add new card to deck is causing a mismatch. Yeah, totally agree with you. That shouldn't be happening. Oh, I got the arguments the wrong way around. Possibly. Oh, yeah, well, I have. I've literally done the things the wrong way around. Could have been worse. I'm going to do this test and then call it a night, actually. Actual application. Someone explained this to me once, if this is a test. And I don't know. I am the noob too. I'm not going to furry this. I'm going to want to wrap this up soon, so I'm not going to dive into that. Test top equals is expecting anything to be a maybe int. Well, then we'll make it a maybe int. It's just going to be just 2. Nothing else, just 2. What did that say? Did it say something cool? No. I thought it was coming up with an error. Awesome. All tests passed. Alright, maybe one more and then I'll stop. add card that matches old card, turns into, is transformed into position, matches back. So we add new card to the deck, and it's going to be writing it to test model, and it's going to be a normal card. It's going to have a position equal to 2. And what our algorithm should do is yeah, like the curried function in the partial app. Gonna have to find out. Okay, so is it like the partial application? So I guess that partial application returns a curried function. I guess that's what it means. All right, gonna wrap this up soon. So we add a new card. We pipe it into a new function that says, well, we don't want to actually test card equals position, which is okay. Do we have a function for pulling this off? We probably should do. Oh, it's going to be really easy, isn't it? It's going to be set equals C and model deck list. I'm going on holiday. It was my last day at work for 2 weeks, and I'm going to go on holiday for to the Britain, which is where I'm from. And I'm going to see my mum and a bunch of people in London. It's going to be fun, but it means I'll probably be on a slightly different schedule. I'm going to keep doing this because this test code therapy really does keep me sane, but I will probably be doing it, that's about it, during the day. So you'll have to quit your job to follow on with me, but the videos will still be available. So, and I'll try. I'm gonna try. I probably won't be doing it quite as much, but I'm gonna try and like fancy up things. Like this thing here. This thing here is not very good. I want to put in like neat overlays and stuff. I might not have my green screen behind me though, so you might get to see where I actually am. But it'll be exotic Britain, so it'll be exciting. Okay, think that will work, but I think it's going to return a maybe. So need to be called just position matches back. Oops. Okay, it's just me being an idiot. Brackets in the wrong place. Holy cow. All tests pass. Yeah. That oddly does make me feel a bit more in that program. Don't know why. Tests. Feel more confident. Okay. Well, now we have some tests in Elm, probably to be made completely out of date by the new version of Elm-Tests, but they certainly make me feel safer in my home, which is good, because watching that stuff happen in Turkey was making me feel really unsafe. If you're interested in finding out what's happening in Turkey, a couple of people I can recommend. This is a friend of mine, Zeynep, and Zeynep is there and doing a lot of thinking about what's going on and using real words, and it sounds like she's a bit grumpy about the whole thing. Fair enough. And also Andy Carvin runs a service called Reportedly. And Reportedly is pretty good at summarizing all the things that are going on. Yeah, we should, you know, Chicken Skill, what I should do is get some of those sound effects like Mike Conley has in A Joy of Coding. And like when we run the test, it should go, wow, yeah. I'll get on that. That could be one of the God. All right. This is exactly what I was trying to avoid doing. I'm not going anywhere near Turkey. I'm going to get some nice rest and make sure that there aren't people there who need help from the FF. Okay, let's see what stuff we've messed with here. Okay, I think both of those are things that make sense to include. But not tests.jx. In fact, that should really be something we add to the git ignore. Oops. One of those strange CPU. One of those to the end anyway. I've been messing around with seeing if this will stream to Facebook. One thing I know about Facebook is it doesn't like the stream stopping. So we'll see if that actually worked. Okay, so let's look at stasis. Yeah, let's add, damn it. I don't know whether you, yeah, I think that's reasonable. First tests. Committing. Okay. Pushing. Done. All right. That was a good, reasonable night's work, I think. See you soon. I may well be in Britain by the time you next see me. Maybe not. Maybe I'll play around with this before we catch our flight. But in the meantime, thank you very much for keeping me company. I hope it was as calming for you as it is for me. And see you next time. Don't forget to follow. And there's a Facebook page, but it's super provisional. So, but if you look for Code Therapy Live on Facebook, I bet you can join it and probably get notified when I'm streaming there too. All right, speak to you soon. Bye. Bye, everybody on the RC. Have a good day too. Bye.